Who goes first?
Last time you guys were up here as part of this inquiry, you talked about how you had opened some files related to the past two federal elections. Can you give us an update on the status of those? Are they still open? Have you closed them? Or will we get any update anytime soon on those investigations?
Yeah, well, you know that if any ongoing files that we're not going to discuss, but we do have ongoing files.
Why can't you provide a little more details here? I believe the testimony was that there has been progress, that, for example, in regards to Chinese police stations, that the illegal activity stopped. What illegal activity did you stop? Providing those details would reassure the community as to progress.
Well, and there's a fine line with providing that information, right? Because individuals who are charged have a right to have a fair process in the courts. And there's a balance with what's to disclose and what can't be disclosed. When they go to the court, it's full disclosure, so then the information gets out. But sometimes we can't always disclose the information of what we're investigating.
Can I ask you about your shift to a greater emphasis on disruption instead of just collecting evidence for prosecution?
Not to me, to him.
So I would be happy to discuss that. I would not characterize it as a shift to disruption. What it is a shift or a reinforcement of the focus being on actions that lead to greater public safety and more significant impact. So it's not like we are shifting to or away something. We are simply saying that prosecution is not the gold standard meaning how we're going to be measured on whether or not we've had success. We're going to employ and have been employing more recently all of the possible options and tools, which would include disruption as well as other things, to have a greater public safety impact.
What's examples of disruption, just so you can explain to Canadians what that means? I mean, you talked about parking police cars. I think Mr. Duheme must have mentioned that earlier last year. Parking police cars in front of the alleged police stations. Is that invisible? Give us some other examples of disruption.
So I'll be cautious in getting into some of the key examples, but one of the things is being visibly present, as you said. The other is working with partners that have authorities, whether it be CBSA, IRCC, Elections Canada. I'm having a blank here on.
I guess generally it's other government departments who can operate in that space and are probably better positioned to do the disruption than the organization. As Mark mentioned, we've been looking for the gold standard, but sometimes you don't get there, and disruption is probably sometimes a better tool, and that's where the community has to come together and see who's better positioned to do that disruption.
Jasper communities say they feel left out in the cold, that they're not being followed up with. You said today you would try to address that. Can you give us more details on what you're doing to assure them that you will follow up?
So we have testified about a broad range of activities that we are undertaking and engaging with the community. I can tell you that there's members across the country that are engaging with the community 7 days a week. They're not taking weekends off. They're going in, they're engaging with those people. We're creating products for the community. We're tailoring it for their languages. As we testified, there's 11 different languages in some of the more recent work that we've done. The actions that we took in some of our investigations that we talked about as well it has garnered additional confidence in us, and we've seen the results of that, where problems that have not been reported to us in the past are now being reported to us. We're receiving feedback from members of the community that they're grateful for actions that we've taken, and they're grateful for the interest that we are taking. I spoke a little bit about PS 752, and I want to go back to that for a minute, because I can tell you that we have a large number of members of the RCMP and our integrated units, and it's important to say that our integrated national security teams are made up of RCMP and police of jurisdiction at a municipal and provincial level, and they have engaged with family members across the country, and in some cases those family members are in dire need of assistance and engagement and an ear, and that staff hears about all those problems, they absorb those problems, and it does have an impact on them, and they're dedicated to that service in helping protect Canadians and making Canada safer and making people feel safer.
Some clarification on Commissioner Duhame's comments. He said charges. Are there charges pertaining to your investigation of Chinese police stations?
I didn't say charges. You were asking me how come we're not releasing information, and what I said that people have a right to a fair trial, and that's why when the charges are laid, in a criminal investigation, there's full and frank disclosure, and that's when the information comes out. So I didn't say there were any charges laid.
Can you give actually a little more information about this? In terms, you said disruption. Have you, the individuals who you were looking at, who have not been named, who we cannot identify, are they permanent residents? Are they foreign nationals? Are they diplomats? And have you sent any names for possible potential diplomat or staff for foreign affairs to possibly have their credentials revoked?
So we've been very clear, we're not going to speak about ongoing investigations, and
Who are you investigating?
I just got a question then. Can I ask you, 752, you talked about needing a layered approach when dealing with the victims. What does layered approach mean?
So that is both an investigative approach, but also a support approach. So we are working with them to hear their concerns, not just about the criminal elements. We're hearing about their personal situations, additional needs that they may have, and then we are an ambassador on behalf of Canada to the rest of the government departments to make sure they are aware of what's going on. Then we have the actual investigation from a domestic perspective and the activities that we've done there, the work that we're doing to support more historically than currently with Ukraine, given the situation in Ukraine, but also our support to justice in the International Criminal Court work that is underway. That has also been very public, so multiple levels.
I'll just come back to you. To a slightly different topic, but the RCMP is receiving documents, whether you want them or not, from the House of Commons on this Sustainable Technologies Development Fund. Can you tell me a bit more? Are you afraid that this is the House of Commons interfering in police work and trying to direct the police with these documents?
I'm not going to comment on that, and other than the fact that we did receive the documents, and
Tell me what you've done with them.
the investigation is ongoing, so I'll limit my comments to that.
Is there an investigation?
There is that we confirmed. Mark and I have confirmed in front of the committee that there are investigations ongoing. So,
On the Chinese police stations, one thing that wasn't clear in the testimony: are there currently Chinese police stations operating in Canada?
I wasn't listening. So.
That again falls into part of our ongoing investigation, and I'm not speaking about it at this time.
But can you reassure Canadians and Chinese Canadians that there are none of them operating?
I can reassure Canadians and the Chinese community that the RCMP is actively investigating the matter, the topic, the nature of behavior, as well as a broad range of foreign interference activity in Canada from multiple countries. It is a problem that we have demonstrated through our action and has been referred to as decisive action at the time, and we are continuing our efforts in that space, and I'm hopeful that that does reassure Canadians that we are aware of the problem and we're actively involving in a broad range of things. There's a lot of attention.
The RCMP said they'd shut them down.
So again, I'm not confirming or denying anything. What I'm telling you is that we have active investigations into foreign interference occurring in Canada. There's a lot of focus on the Chinese police stations. I think you need to take a step back and look at this from a broader range of foreign interference and foreign actor interference, including hostile activity of state actors. Your focus on just the police stations actually detracts a little bit away from a broad understanding of the problem, and I hope that we can go a little bit broader when we're talking about this, because there is not one single type of activity that is more important than another. It is broad ranging, it's multifaceted on the side of the adversaries, and it's multifaceted on the side of law enforcement and our security intelligence partners in combating those threats.
Do you have enough resources to enforce Bill C-70 and the new offenses that it creates? Is that going to be a problem going down the road? Are you staffed enough to be able to take this pretty massive bill on?
So the bill, in my view, gives us additional authorities. We talked about that. It gives us opportunities to intervene earlier. Yes, there
But
are.
you need those people to then lay those charges.
Yes. So there are additional investigative effort that is required to do that. The Commissioner spoke in the past, and I've spoken in the past about it's an exercise in priority for us in how we shift our resources to tackle the most significant crimes. Are we concerned about the number of resources we have? You will always hear me express concern about it. We can always use more resources. You'll not speak to a single chief of police or senior executive in law enforcement that won't say we could use more resources. We understand that there is always a balance in that. We are having challenges today from a violent extremist in Canada. We've spoken about that in the past, and there are competing interests at times that make it challenging for us.
We have time for one last question.
One last question.
Do you have enough resources to protect parliamentarians who are facing threats of various kinds these days in that meeting?
So we reprioritize all the work that we're doing, and I can tell you that we have done so with respect to protection of parliamentarians where there is an assessment of threat, where we have redeployed resources from a broad range of activity in the RCMP to ensure that.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Right this way, sir.
No question for Brigitte?
Could have jumped in there.